Hello and welcome to yet again another episode of the Brody Moore podcast. I'm also known as LiefX to many of you. Thank you guys for continuing to watch. I've seen a lot of great comments and people requesting different guests, so keep doing that down in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. But if you're not on YouTube, that's right. We are also on Spotify. You can head over there. Episodes upload immediately after I'm done editing them on Sundays usually, and you can find them on Spotify. But I do put them on a paywall right now. Please don't pay for it. Don't give me any money. It's free on YouTube the next day on Mondays at 12 o'clock. And then Spotify will be opened up on Tuesdays at noon. I just want to push people through to the comments to keep the discussion going. But enough preamble. Let's get on to today's guest. You've already seen the thumbnail and title. It is Dr. Corelli Stevens. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you. You started that off like, you know what NPR is?
Yeah, I've heard NPR. Sometimes I've asked Google to give me news, and all of a sudden it starts giving me NPR. Yeah.
Yeah, you sounded it. That was like it was like, hello and welcome to my show.
Hello and welcome to today's news.
The world.
The world. I don't know if we're covering the world.
Except you're talking to me, so it's not that exciting.
Can you cover the world? All right, let me give you
the history of the world. Where do you actually start? Like, how far back do you go?
That's a good question. Here, we'll start here. I'll give you a news article right off the bat. All right, large toy planes whirl around the Calgary airport terminal are being taken down after 2 decades.
Large toy, like drones?
Yeah, they're just like look like wooden or aluminum toys from like the 80s. The swung on a carousel, and they're taking them down. How sad.
That's a shame. Also, is that where is that?
In Calgary.
Is that how you say it? I always thought
Calgary.
It was Calgary.
You can say Calgary. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was just for some reason this is morning for me. I'm enunciating things weird. Okay.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Call me out.
I've never been there. I just know of it.
Yeah, no, me neither either. And I'm going to protest now. So please leave them an angry letter in the comments below, guys. No, let's talk about something real right now. You were mentioning right off the bat, I'll give you a chance if you want to again, but your background, crazy. You just moved.
Yeah, just moved. I bought this house with my wonderful girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's kind of a yikes. You can see, actually, we don't have blinds, so that's a shower curtain. And we have another shower curtain in the front room, and we have another shower curtain in our bedroom.
That is brilliant.
So it looks like a crack house for sure. Like even one of the shower curtains is just like one of those curtains that's clear, but it like fuzzes out the images, so you just see like shadow, like silhouettes walking by.
Real life Gaussian
it's really
blur.
bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, basically. But it's cranked all the way up. Basically, it's really bad looking. But we're getting blinds soon.
Oh, so, I'm trying to think. Well, so for the longest part, when I lived in my apartment, I just didn't have blinds. Like, my neighbors definitely got to see stuff they didn't want to see when I was walking around. But, like, I would sleep till 2 in the afternoon as well with bright sunlight coming in. When my partner Tesla moved in with me, I finally had to get shades because, well, first off, not most people can sleep when the sun is sniping you in the face.
Yeah.
I can for some reason. What's the most ghetto thing you've ever had just long-term in your house or a place you've lived?
I like an object or like a thing.
Just like haphazardly put together that you're like, I'll fix that later.
It had to have been in college, but it wasn't like a thing. What happened was I lived in a house with 9 guys in college, and nobody did the dishes.
No
but
kidding.
What they would do, they really liked making pasta. So they would make the pasta and then fill up the pot with water to like let it soak, like that classic trick. The problem is they would never come back to clean it, and then they just stopped making pasta. So for an entire year, this pot that was just behind a bunch of other pots sat full of water with a lid on it, with like pasta juice fermenting and marinating in there for a year. And then we went to clean out the house, and like the whole pot was just
you started your own universe.
I mean, that's probably where COVID came from. Like, that's probably what happened.
We found patient zero.
Yeah. Like, it was disgusting. So that's probably the grossest thing. Otherwise, like, it's kind of sad to say, but this is the most I've ever owned in my entire life. Like, obviously a house, but just like now that I moved in with my girlfriend, well, not now, we've been living together for a few years, but
congrats on the house, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you. We have a couch now. Like I have a real bed. We have a dining table.
Real bed. What were you sleeping on before?
Well, no, like we have like a big bed now. Like I was just
okay.
sleeping on some like old, I don't know, like queen size or like full mattress or
yeah,
something.
Fair.
And
yeah,
so
I did that too. Yeah.
she was like, "Oh, we have to get a king size." I was like, "Okay, you buy it. Like that's fine with me." So, yeah, it's great.
I guess that's one of my ghetto things. I didn't have a bed frame for the longest time. I just had the mattress on the floor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I did that
okay.
in San Francisco. Yeah, I just had a queen mattress on the floor with like a sheet over it. It's great.
There's
I
something
didn't
nice
mind.
about it. Yeah. I have to. I'll share my story. I got to the point where I was so lazy when it came to dishes as well. When I was living by myself, no one else had to deal with this. It got to the point I would do the things would sit in the sink, to the point that like the sink itself was rusting, and
oh no,
and I got to the point where I'm not cleaning this. I just started throwing dishes out. Like I couldn't.
We did that
beyond repair.
We did that in college too. I was like, this is disgusting. We're not even going to put this in the sink. I'm just throwing it.
This is going outside out of our environment immediately.
Yeah. It's the worst too, because if you rent something, then you know they're going to like find it and then they're going to make you pay for it. So like we never got our deposit back on that house. We did a lot more things to that house.
Oh no.
But,
you just like, someone's going to find a pot in the attic just full of water.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We didn't do that. We threw it away. Like the dumpster outside is what I meant. Yeah. We just throw it outside or in the walls or in a closet somewhere.
Walls, yeah. Oh my God.
No. But yeah, that house was gross, and we definitely didn't get a deposit back. That's okay.
That is brilliant. I also wanted to ask. I think I've asked this before, and most people probably haven't heard this nickname. But early on, when you were when we first started working together. Oftentimes your nickname, what was it? It was what I said at the beginning, Dr. Corelli Stevens or something.
Dr. Corelli Stevens.
Where did that come from?
Okay.
Do you remember?
Yes. No. Yeah.
I'm trying
to. Yes. Okay. No. I was trying to get the story right. Because it's literally two memes put together. Also, another one that's a very niche inside joke is Dr. Romero Gill, which we'll get to in a moment. But basically,
heard that one.
Findable Carpet, for whatever reason, just started calling me Mr. Stevens. Corelli Stevens and he thought my last name was Stevens, or like jokingly. I don't know if he thought it for sure or like he was joking, but he called me Corelli Stevens like all the time. And it was when I first started like interacting with him and like getting to know him like on a caster basis, because I knew him beforehand, but then we really started working together a lot more. And so he called me Mr. Stevens, and Achieves freaking loved that. So like Achieves would, yeah, he calls me Stevens to this day. And so that's where Corelli Stevens comes from. And then the doctor is from Achieves because, as you know, but probably people watching this don't know, is if you come up to Achieves, and I do it too, he'll come up to you and be like, "Hey, Achieves," he'd be like, "Doctor," and he'll shake your hand. But the joke kind of like went further from that. So now you don't just call each other doctor. So like Achieves will come up, be like, "Doctor," and I'll be like, "Congressman." And then like Jorby will walk up and be like, "Mr. President," it's just like senator, it's just like all these like formal like government names, I guess. And so that's how it went from there. But the Romero Gill thing, which is not a very big one, doesn't get used that much anymore, basically just by Achieves. But when we went to Season 7 Worlds, Achieves was there, obviously, and so was I casting it. And we were put in the locker room of Seton Hall's
For some reason, I just imagined someone from Psionic shoving you two in lockers when you said we were just
well, we probably deserved that at some point, yeah. But
this is the schoolyard bully.
But their basketball team had a player named, I think, Romero Gill.
Oh,
and that was my locker. That was the one I put my stuff in. So Achieves thought that name was hilarious.
Yeah, that was Prudential Center, right?
Yeah, Prudential Center. And so, and I might have gotten the school wrong. Seton Hall is why, for some reason in my head, maybe it was something else. But yeah, his name was Romero Gill, and so he called me Dr. Romero Gill, or Dr. Stevens is usually.
That's good. I like it. We're getting deep RLCS lore here.
That's real deep lore. Really deep lore. Yeah,
that's great. Now you know what I want to let's take a bit of a journey back, I guess, to yours, because I was talking to the episode that will have come out before yours. will be Dazrin, I believe. And we talked about his journey through all of this too, because he was there. He was there since like the beginning, but then obviously a few guys got brought on a lot later. What was your history early on? Because I always had kept like an eye on Dazrin, but I didn't see as much from you early on.
Well, there wasn't anything.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you want the long story, I assume. How much time do these normally go for?
We go as long as until you're sick of me. Sometimes they're 50 minutes, sometimes they're 2 hours.
Okay, I'll give you the long story because I don't think I've actually
ever
said like the long
People
story.
are in their cars right now on their way to work. They want to hear something good. So
Okay, I'll get to it then. All right, the long story is this.
Okay.
I was, oh gosh, this was in 2017 at this point. I had been playing. Yeah.
Okay.
No, sorry, 2016. Excuse me. This is fall 2016.
Oh wait, no, sorry. We started in 2016 for the esport, and then 2017. Yeah, because it would have been about season 3 or so, maybe.
So I've played the game since it came out.
Yeah.
Okay. And I am very proud to say that every single team that I've been on was power ranked top 10 in North America.
Yes,
okay. I just want to get that out. ESL Cup number 16 champion. You're talking to him in the flesh right now. Okay. Very important to get that out of the way first. But eventually, I sucked. I was never really that great, but I was good enough early on. So 2016 rolls around, and I'm graduating college because the game came out my final semester of college. I went to college for 3.5 years. I graduated early, and I graduated that December. So December 2016, I graduated, and basically at that point, I knew like I needed to get a job. And even if you were like a professional Rocket League player at the top level, like you weren't getting paid enough, I don't think. Or if you were, it was like one.
Back then, it wasn't a lot back then.
It was like Cronovi maybe.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like you weren't making a living. So I was like, shit. Well, I gotta,
do something
else. Like I gotta get a job. Like there was just it was too early, right? And I was like too old because I was like 22 or 23 at the time. I was turning 23.
Do you think? A quick tangent. Do you think that's gonna be a myth now that we've had players playing like? I mean, you look at like Jane Abscare, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, it'll bubble up to like 2021 is my guess.
That's it? You think? Oh, I was thinking like mid-20s.
Yeah. Well, okay. Tangent, real quick, is that we could talk about this more, but like an average professional, like for instance, NFL career is only like 5 years long on average, like 5 to 7 years long. So it's just that the scale starts earlier in esports. So it starts at 15 instead of like 18 or 20 when you graduate college. At least for American sports.
Yeah, I was going to say it's interesting because hockey, you'll see players go into mid-30s to start when they're 18, 20, and go to mid-30s.
And obviously NFL has some other factors that, keeps players from... Yeah. So it's maybe not the best thing, but like, most careers don't last that long.
That's true.
So anyways.
Yes.
Where was I?
You were basically you have to figure out what to do with your life now because you're not going to be able to make money.
Let me restart. That was 2015. I was graduating 2015. Realized I needed to get a job. Had to stop playing. Okay. Moved to San Francisco.
Yes.
Now we're into the fall of 2016. And I was like, shoot, I still want to be part of the Rocket League scene. And like, I'm still top 100 globally in the ranked leaderboard. That's got to count for something.
For sure.
And so I was like, listen, I have some great connections still. Like I knew guys like Cloud Fuel, guys that were putting on RLCPL, guys that were putting on RLCS, people that were, putting on Gfinities and, whatever, right? So I had connections and I was trying to leverage that to anyone that would listen in San Francisco.
Yep.
And I looked for months and months and months and months. And it wasn't until like September, I think, of 2016 where I found Showdown, which was like a bar at the Folsom Foundry in San Francisco. I don't know if they still do things anymore.
Yeah, but, I know the Showdowns because they had Showdowns.
They did Smash. They
in
do
other
Smash
places
stuff
too. Yeah. That's
And they also were the white label. I found this out too. They told me they were the white label production company for one of the Genesises. Genesis.
You know what? I think I knew that because I was doing TOing back then. So
they were pretty established. Yeah. Like they had a sick setup. Like they knew what they were doing. They weren't just some like ragtag team. They were small, but they knew what they were doing. So anyways, I showed up for a 2v2 tournament with Subin, if you know who Subin is. And we just absolutely dominated. I mean, we're both top 100. We were playing against like Diamond Kids, so it wasn't really like fun for anyone.
Yeah.
In fact, it was so bad that like in the grand final, I think it was supposed to be a best of 7, and the kids are like, "Can this?" The other team like, "Can this just be a best of 5? Like we're done." And I felt bad, but like, because I wasn't there to smash people. I was there to, I mean, we knew we were going to win. So I was trying to get some attention to like, I want to do something. And so eventually the president of the company came up to me and they're like, hey, really cool stuff. We want to get into Rocket League. We need casters. And I was like, no.
No, really?
No. I said no. Okay. I said no initially, like kind of like, I didn't know if he was really serious or not, right? But he took my information down, he emailed me, and eventually convinced me. And so, and the beginning of this is the longer part. I fast forward here.
Okay.
But he goes, okay, we're going to target West Coast time zones with like West Coast players, because like West Coast is like nobody lives here, right?
Right.
So at least in the United States. So, but we're in San Francisco, so it works for us and our team. I'm like, great, that's a great idea. It's unique. It's a niche thing. It's not going to pop off, but like it's a great way to establish ourselves. So he's like, hey, I got you a caster. I got you a co-caster.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. Who is it? And he said, he kept mentioning like it was the guy who casted with the Chiefs at TwitchCon. And I was like, I didn't watch TwitchCon. Okay. I don't know. And at that time I hardly knew Achieves. I knew of him. Okay. That was about it. And so he's like, he's coming today for the broadcast. And I was like, great. Can't wait to meet him. And I was like, kind of like, oh God. Yeah. In walks fucking Quinn Lobdell with the like these big like aviator glasses or something, man. Looked great. And I was like, Quinn? Because I had known him, I'd played him a little bit, I had talked to him a little bit, because this is after season 1 Worlds, or maybe even season 2. So I talked to him before. I knew who he was. Okay. I had him on my friends list, and I was like, Quinn Lobdell? He's like, what's up, man? Like, oh, yeah. Man. Like the Quinn way, because like Quinn's just an awesome guy. Yeah. And I was like, no shit, like I'm gonna be casting with Quinn Lobdell, like so cool. So like he and I became really close, and I'll never forget my first. And it's still up. The YouTube video is still up on my first cast, but I didn't know how to open a show. So they had one of the production guys host the beginning of the show to open it up.
Okay.
And then they're just like, all right, I'm going to hand it off to Corelli. And he just like stands up out of the seat. And then I sit down. I'm like, all right, let's get into it, guys. Yeah. Like just terrified. So anyways, he and I worked together all the way into the spring of 2017, where eventually we went from West Coast stuff to, and there's a reason why I'm telling you all this, did all the West Coast stuff into a monthly thing, which is where we got sponsorship, I think, from Twitch and maybe Red Bull or like Psyonix, maybe?
Okay.
Someone. I think it was mostly Twitch.
Which tournament was this?
This was the Take the Shot monthlies.
Oh, yeah.
That's what the tournament
was
called. So at that point, that was all my experience casting up until the spring of 2017, which I think was somewhere around maybe 10 times casting total.
Okay.
And then Quinn got in contact with the NBC Universal Open people, and they wanted him. And he vouched for me. He was like, hey, if you get me, like, you have to take my co-caster with me. And they're like, fine, we'll take him. So that's how I got on NBC Universal Open. And that was by far like the most terrifying, but the best experience for me, because I mean, I'm shitting my pants, and I got stories and stories on that show, but I'm pooping my pants on these things because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I've casted in a bar by myself with a one-man production team with Quinn Lobdell, who, like, if you know Quinn, he can carry a broadcast because he just talks, so I don't have to do anything. Yeah. And I was a play-by-play caster. And so, anyways, it was really good for me. I got a lot of experience. And then from there, doing Universal Open, I think, helped get my Rival Series gig and then the CRL gig. But I say all that because you said, oh, I didn't really hear of you. I casted. People ask, Corelli, what's the best way to get into esports as a caster? Like, what did you do? Like, surely I could take something from your thing. I was like, no. I casted 14 shows, 14 times. And then I was on Rival Series.
RLCS.
So, like... do not take any advice from me because I don't know. You have guys who grind, like Achieves, who grinded like every day for a year on Gfinities or something like that. Jorby, who was like grinding, Nexus tournaments and stacks on Mocket. Like Daz was on RLC stuff. So like those are the guys. James, those are the guys. You and Lawler were on. I think you guys did like VVV and like VVV other stuff
for 5 months beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah. So like Gibbs is just Gibbs. So everyone was grinding, and I just like definitely leveraged me being good at the game to get into a spot, and then got just so ridiculously lucky.
Hey, well,
yeah.
this is why I said. I mean, again, I'm glad you're here now. I'm glad you that journey of rocket shipping to the top happened. But I don't know. I think a lot of times success. So I think success comes from three things: one, skill; two, luck; and then three, networking to increase that luck. I think you can affect the luck. And I think you did what was right. Like you network, you said, I'm going to put myself out there. Networking isn't just schmoozing all the time. Networking is it's getting yourself just out there. Keeping your name, your presence, your face at the back of people's heads, you know, like just if they think of something, ooh, I got a guy for that. And it's you, right? So I think that's how you increase that luck. But you don't stay successful if you don't have the skill to keep you there. So I think that's a testament to how good you were if you got shoved into this position and then got brought on immediately. I got to say that.
So I will agree, not for myself, but just generally I will agree. I will say this. So that's Rival Series. And I only did one show on Rival Series, the first season of Rival Series. And then immediately after that was CRL. And Corey, that's when Corey was coming on.
Yep.
And he really liked the Chiefs and I, and we were like younger at the time. So we were like 22, 23. So we weren't that far removed from college.
Yep.
And so he was like, hey, I want you and the Chiefs to host the CRL seasons. And I was like, oh, sure. Like, heck yeah. But that meant I was being put with the Chiefs. And if you don't know, Achieves, and I don't know if you'll agree with me or not, but this is how I viewed him, and a lot of people I think viewed him, is like Achieves went on this stint of like the golden boy of a Rocket League casting for a little while. He was on everything, like every third-party event, every DreamHack, every Universal Open. He did that. He like lived in London for a month or whatever. Like he was on everything. Like he was just a golden child for a little bit. And so me, who has casted a total of 14 times, is being paired with an incredibly experienced caster at this point for the length of time that he's been casting. He's got like 2 years of casting. I have a week's worth of casting if you condense it all down, maybe.
It's interesting our perspectives can change like this, right?
Yeah. And so I was getting my ass kicked in those broadcasts. Like you can't actually get that like that doesn't actually happen, but like he was superior to me in every single way at the beginning of those CRL broadcasts. And I was like embarrassed, you know, not that anyone was noticing it, but I could tell because like I had started to get a feel for like what's good casting, what's bad casting, who's good, who's bad. And I noticed that I was like, oh my God, I am way behind this guy. Like I need to figure my shit out because he is blowing me out of the water because he's just good. Like Achieves was just, he was smooth. His transitions were so great. Like he was definitely green to hosting, but at that time he was really good. And so I just say that because I mean, I don't know if I was really all that great. I think I definitely benefited off of being good at the game, and those reps on CRL in particular, I think is where I really got good. Working with a very experienced broadcaster for at least my experience, and just being in studio, working with a producer, and just getting feedback constantly. That's where I really grew initially on CRL.
Well, I said it actually. It was I think it was on the Shogun episode. I mentioned that I think you're the best caster because of the matches you've had to cast in the you've been put through the ring.
Oh my God. Oh, don't get me started.
Like if you could get through what you had to in the RLCS there, then I think you can get through anything.
I've had some really rough matches in probably the last, 2 or 3 seasons, but I've also had some matches that were good that were just painfully long too. The CRL, the first national championship, I think we casted like 4 best of 7s in a row or something like that, like back to back to back, and hosting and doing desk analysis, like just horrible grind in studio. But yeah, like you're referencing, was that season 9?
It was TSM,
TSM, AS Monaco, Complexity. All those European teams were just so bad, and I kept having to cast them.
Every time.
I hated casting them because they were so bad. They were so bad. And I thought I was past that, and then I had the World Championship cast, and then like G2 just shit the bed on that one. And that World Championship cast was the hardest casting moment, I think, for me I've ever had, because it was such a big deal to be on that, for a series to be so bad in that big of a moment, such a blowout, I should say.
Yeah.
That was really I was pushed to the limit on that one personally, because it was like, and I remember looking at James, who is like very experienced in those situations, and I felt like he was also like, I mean, he probably wouldn't say this, but it was a hard one. That was probably the hardest series I've ever casted. I'm not kidding.
How do you get
Probably
through that? Like, how do you, like, mid-series when you realize, okay, crap, we're gonna have to work overtime for this? Like, how do you keep yourself? What adjustments do you make to?
So, luckily, I will say this was probably a big benefit that we had, was that it was a tri-cast. So that just means one more mind to play off of. It's tough because in a World Championship broadcast, I mean, that was my first one, so I'm not talking from experience here, but I approach it, I have a huge philosophy on casting, but specifically for that broadcast, I approached it as like, everything should be grand, right?
Yep.
Everything that I say should be interesting. It should feel bigger, right?
Yep.
Than maybe what it really is, like a stat or any analysis that I add, and it needs to be short and concise, because we can't miss a big moment. We can't miss a big goal. No big goals really came, but because it was just a slaughter. But you don't want to get caught. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be in the middle of a point and then someone scores a goal. So my initial plan was to do my normal thing. Come in with the analysis, come in with some interesting points. I had some stats written down, which, if you notice, if you go back and listen to it, I didn't really say a lot of stats, because when it turns into a blowout, I didn't have any stats for like when teams do bad, like really bad. You know what I mean? Because mostly you want to be more positive than negative, and just use negative commentary for like things you're seeing right now. At least that's how I view it.
Yeah.
So I didn't have anything like, oh, G2's getting blown out. When was the last time that happened, right? Like, these types of things I didn't have because I just didn't expect it.
We also didn't have live stats being fed to us at that point, right?
We did, I think. Well, we had James's laptop out there, so I think James had something. Okay. I can't even remember now.
Well, I mean like a statistician. Like, we didn't have a direct.
Did we not?
Did we? I can't remember.
No, D-Rec was there. Yeah, he was in there. Yeah.
Oh, was he there? Okay.
Yeah, he was there. So anyways, I shifted that to like, we're going to let Jorby run, because, he's going to hype it up better than James and I can. And then when he stops, my role was to add analysis. James's role was to add story. And what happened was, the analysis, for me at least, ran pretty dry, because I just kept, it was just like, they're just getting slaughtered, right? Like, BDS is just better. And I didn't want to repeat myself, because that's boring. So James started doing more story. I tried adding more story, just stuff off the top of my head, because I didn't really prep big story moments for the entirety of a series, because that was what James's job was supposed to be. And so I was pushed to my limit on just like the innate knowledge that I had, and of course just making sure that when Jorby stopped talking, James and I were coordinating on who's saying what for that moment. But like, as a guy who likes doing color commentary and analysis, and originally came out as like, I'm going to show you how big my brain is, that was a tough one, because I mean, what do you say for a team that's just getting crushed the entirety of a series? And you don't want to seem biased either. Like I didn't want to talk up BDS the entire time, because then fans get upset about bias, especially in a World Championship match where 250,000 people are watching it at that point. So you don't want to come off biased, but you do have to say how good BDS is, without dragging G2, one of the biggest franchises, one of the biggest names in our esport, the entire time, because the G2 fans come after you as well. And I'm not really saying this for myself, but more so like, I didn't want the conversation to be after that series of, wow, the casters really just stroked off BDS for the entire time and just shit on G2. I wanted it to be like, holy crap, G2 just got shit on by BDS, full stop. Nothing about the casters. So there's a little bit of that runs through my mind, but yeah. So anyways, that one really pushed me to my limit. And when it ended, I just stood there like, I just looked at James and Jorby. I'm just like, we all just went like this. We're like, well, it's all over now. like we did it. Because I mean, for me, that was their second. Well, that was Jorby's second time, and James's like third or fourth. And so for me, like, I don't know if I'll ever get another opportunity. So you want to do the best that you possibly can. And as a caster, obviously, good games are good, and good casting comes from good games as well. Like, I don't think anyone says, "Wow, that's such a great caster on a shitty game," right? They're just like, "Hey, he's earned his paycheck today." That's what we say, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to give like a world class number one in your book cast on a shitty game. It's just not possible because the game's not giving you anything.
Yeah,
and that's not anyone's fault. It's just how it goes.
It's a back and forth. Also, I don't know why I questioned the statistician thing. I'm like, the past
he
few
was
years,
in there the whole time.
Yeah, I'm like, of course, yeah, we had him for a while. But yeah, no, it always has to be a back and forth. I think that's one wonderful thing about casting is that fans are no less excited about this. It's just we get to be a part of these moments. But that's what it is. We're a part of these moments, right? And if the moment is dull, we're also a part of that. We're there to try to make it less dull, but you need that feedback. It's like a band or a comedian that's bombing an audience, right? It's like you have to have that dynamic.
And that's kind of what it felt like too. I felt like I was bombing. I don't think anyone mentioned the casting, so like
that's good. That's
a good thing.
If no one says anything about us, we're doing a good job.
Yeah. And so I look back and like I normally don't look through comments, but I was just curious, like, do people notice that? And no one really was saying anything because, of course, the conversation went exactly how I wanted it to be. Was holy crap, BDS is so good, which is what the conversation should be.
Yes, exactly.
It shouldn't be about the casting. So, but as a caster, of course, that's what I'm focused on. And so yeah, that one was the hardest one. I hope that in the future I get another shot. Because I had a blast doing it. Like I look back, that was the highlight of my career, right? Like that's the highest honor that can be given to a caster. And, with the years now being so long, especially since there's probably going to be bias towards, right, like EU casters for EU World Championship, which is totally fine. NA casters for an NA Championship. It'll be another year or two till I have another shot. So, if I were to be chosen. So, it's painful because you want to have like a big moment, right? You look back at all the great calls and you want to be that guy. And I didn't go out there trying to be that guy, but in the back of my head, I was like, if something big happens, it's on you to make that call memorable. Big, And I mean, luckily or unluckily, we didn't have to do that. So
well, I was going to say, because it's also possible. I mean, I always reference back, man, while we were still green. Season 2 grand finals, please no one ever go watch that again.
I know the clip. I know that
just
clip.
Don't, like, our throats were done. We had people every 5 minutes bringing us tea and honey because we were done. We were tired. I was getting maybe 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night. So when you start talking after already talking all day, sometimes your lips and tongue stop working. And words just start slurring, and it was an awful mess. That was my big moment. So you can never get lower than that. So
no, I remember watching your cast for that one, and
you're like, wow,
it's
this
hard.
Guy fucking sucks.
No, I didn't think that at the time. Now I do.
No, it's brutal too because that was still the time when people were commenting on.
But to be fair, I look back on the comments because I was there too. Like I was following RLCS day one every day. Of course, NAEU, everything. And like I think early criticisms from casters were totally fair because everyone was just new. Like you guys didn't go to school for it. Like it hurts to hear, but it was true, right? Like I don't think anyone looks back and be like, wow, the fans were so wrong about that. Like no, they know what good casting is. They hear professional sports all the time. None of you guys at that point had that much experience, so I don't blame you guys, and I don't blame fans for being upset about it. Nowadays, because we've been in it for so long, and because of the team that we have that is just so giga experienced in Rocket League, like if a caster does have a bad cast, it's like, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of the expectation now with how experienced this team is that like it should be a good cast. Like it has to be.
Our default our floor should be up here.
It should be it should be the ceiling. Like floor is the ceiling for us, I think, at this point. Like it has to be good, in my opinion, at least. Which is that pressure that I was feeling at the World Championship because like everyone's expecting and knows if James, Corelli, and Jorby are casting, that's a very experienced team. That's 2 guys have casted a World Championship before, and Corelli's been around for long enough now. Those guys should have a banger of a cast. And, I mean, we did as well as we could with what the series gave us. I mean, at the end of the day, we just said BDS banged G2 the whole time. So,
again, the point of it is, I'd actually at some point, maybe we'll get to that in a minute. Be interested to hear some of your philosophies on it. But yeah, I think the key thing as a commentator or an on-air talent when we're your traditional sports, esports, your job, we're entertaining. Our job is to tell the story of these players and these teams, and what that journey was to that moment and what that moment means. Really, I mean, it's just what's the story. Overall, I'm very curious now when you do see criticism, what your emotion is, because early on my first season of RLCS was the most depressed I've ever been. Like I've never felt shittier in my life.
From like fan commentary, like
just
on you?
Seeing myself, even like just seeing myself on camera, I'm like, wow. I'm like, I look awkward. I'm ugly. I can't talk right. Like it was everything. And I already suffered from depression. It's gotten a lot better as I've gotten older, but that was still mid-20s for me. It was still a struggle just in general. Yeah. But let alone being put in the spotlight. And that could have easily been the moment where I buckled and said, I'm out. I can't do this. But then, thankfully something in me clicked and said, I have to take this criticism and I have to learn from it. These guys are watching it. This is their show as much as it is ours. They're the ones we have to entertain. And if they don't like it, we're doing something wrong. So thankfully I was able to, take some of that and build and stick with it. But now when you get criticism today, your first times you got criticism, did you feel that way as well? How did you handle it? And how do you handle it now compared to then?
So okay. As you know, maybe most people don't know this, but I am the world's most invisible caster up until probably about last season.
It's definitely changed.
It's definitely changed. But basically, none of my casting career up until last season, no one said anything good. No one ever said anything bad. Like it was very rare that anyone mentioned my name. My name was never typed anywhere, which is fine. That means I was doing a good job, I think. I hope.
Yeah.
But I will say collectively, I've gotten criticisms when we were on Rival Series. But, Rival Series was the same thing that you guys went through your first 4 seasons, right? So it hurt initially. It takes a huge chunk out of like your pride, a little bit of your ego, right? Mm-hmm. That you're just kind of getting slapped around by people online. But I was upset about it. I remember texting my girlfriend about it at the time, who knows nothing about Rocket League really at all, or gaming, and she didn't really understand. But she's like, she did that thing. What's the guy who tweeted like, "How is cyberbullying real? Just like close the laptop." Or something Tyler,
that sounds like a Keemster kind of thing to say. Or Keemstar kind of thing to say.
That's kind of what she was like alluding to. She's like, just log off, which that was actually pretty good advice, right? She's just like, just get off of Twitter then, or get off of Reddit or whatever. Like, stop looking at it. But it hurt, right? Like it hurts to get criticized. Nobody likes it. It's human nature to not like.
You're going to resist any resistance against you. Yeah.
And I think every caster has to go through it. I think it's an important thing to go through. I'm not saying like you should be hazed or anything like that, but I think everyone's going to get criticism in the safest spaces possible.
It's a rite of passage.
It is, and you're going to get it, and it's on you how you decide to take it. And so initially, guys like look at Jorby, for example. He took it very personally, and he went out and went online trying to defend himself. And realistically, that didn't help, right? And he's learned that now. He knows this. And he wouldn't mind me saying this because we talk about it. Yeah. And I was right there with him. I was like, "You go, Jorby. You're fighting the good fight." But we were wrong, right? Like we were definitely wrong. We were green. We were new. We sucked. But you had to go through that enough, and then you kind of realize, okay, you know what? Maybe some of these guys do have a little bit of a point here and there. And you can work on that. Nowadays, if I get criticism, nothing's changed, right? Like, obviously, I still don't like seeing it in the sense of like, I don't want like a whole thread on Reddit about like how shitty of a caster someone is, right?
Yeah.
I don't care. They can do that, but I'm just saying like most of the time the criticism is either something that is known, right? Like sometimes maybe someone used a crutch word too much. It happens.
Yeah.
Most of it is me like messing up like a word. Like I said, shit shot. Like I can't even say it now.
A lot of them are accidents. Right?
So they're like goofy stuff, like goofy stuff. And sometimes they think that we're doing it on purpose, which obviously we're not. But like the actual...
we're just gonna risk our careers to make a little joke.
Yeah,
for you guys.
yeah. Just slip in a shit shot in the middle of all that.
You limp dick.
I don't know. I for me now, I definitely weigh all criticism that I do see. I don't see a ton of it these days. I think people have kind of hopped off the hate train, but I weigh every criticism that I get now because I feel like if someone is spending the time to actually give me like real feedback / criticism,
sure,
I'll weigh it. I'll take a look, and I won't be upset about it either, because I know I'm confident now that like my casting ability is good.
Right.
I wouldn't be on the team if it wasn't good, and I think that if someone thinks that I could do better in some area, I'm happy to hear about it, so long as there's actual substance to the criticism. That's the other big thing is like, if you want to write, "Hey, Corelli sucks," that's fine. Like that doesn't bother me because there's just nothing there.
Yeah.
If you say, "I don't really like listening to Corelli," okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
And also, that's just the case too. Like, you might not like.
Not everyone has to like everyone. Yeah.
And if you don't like them, that's fine. I don't take offense to being like, hey, I just don't like the way Corelli sounds, or I don't like the way Corelli casts. Totally fine. So there's a little bit of that where it's kind of like you have to know you're not going to please everyone. There are people who hate Shogun and Johnny. Right. I see that on the Reddit all the time. They're like, I hate Shogun. I don't like listening to Johnny. And people regard them as the best pair. So it's all about taste. And you kind of have, there will be a percentage of people who just don't like you, and that's okay.
Yeah. No, oh, you know what? Okay. So I had like 3 routes I wanted to go with that. First route. No, let's go to your, more of your philosophy then. Do you have like a generalized philosophy then?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I have so much. I have so much.
When you mentioned philosophy before, I saw a little bit of a shine in your eyes. I'm like, I think this is a thread we need to pull on then.
I have thought about this so much. I told you, this is going to be like a 3-hour-long thing.
All right. If you guys are almost at your destination right now, take a detour.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's do it.
So here's how I view casting. And this is my own personal subjective view. I'm not saying it's the correct way. I'm saying this is what I think is the correct thing in the world of Rocket League and Rocket League only. There will be some that leaks out into esports in general. But in the world of Rocket League, this is how I view what is good casting. Okay. Casting is on a spectrum for me. Okay. It's not one thing. It's not left, right. It is left, right. There's one side and there's another side. It's the right and the left side. Okay. Doesn't matter what side you put things on. On the right side, let's say you have, my right, camera left, is the hype, right? This is where Jorby lives, right? The hype, it's the emotion, right? It's that big time call, 0 seconds, unbelievable, that kind of stuff. That is this side of the spectrum. It's just hype, excitement. It's the entertainment side. That's what I label it, the entertainment side. Okay.
I see where you're going
on the
with this,
left side. These are more like your achieves, your Johnny boys. This is your color. This is your more monotoned, more serious, more big-brained analysis side is what I call it, right? Color / analysis. And I will say, as a caveat, color can fall into both sides of the spectrum, in my opinion, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But analysis, these are the guys that are telling the story. These are the guys that are telling you the stats. Right. This is the real meat of what's happening. They break it down. Right. Okay. Every caster falls somewhere in between that spectrum. Okay.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that Rocket League casters, especially play-by-play, but I think even color casters everyone should fall just to the right of the middle.
Okay.
Yeah. You should favor entertainment more than analysis. And that might be shocking coming from me because, again, when I said initially when I came on, I wanted to be very analytical. I knew the game. I played against the best players. I was top 100 in the world globally in solo standard. I knew how everyone played. The issue with that is, for me at least, when I listen to someone who is constantly breaking things down and going Jimmy Neutron brain blast mode, it's interesting, but it's so verbose and it's so like wordy, and like you could feel the caster really chopping through their thought. It's like, well, he did this because he went to do this, but he tried to do this, but he couldn't do that. And you're like that guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where he's got everything on the wall.
Lines everywhere.
Like, yeah. It's like that. And so, and our best analysis guys like Achieves and Johnny Boy, they do it really well because they're succinct. They get in, They
Good
explain
deliberate
it.
with their
They're
words,
deliberate, and they also know how to react to hype as well, right? When it happens, they don't just like leave it for play-by-play. Like they will take it on. And if you've noticed, all Rocket League casters on the RLCS team who were doing color and analysis, myself included, now pick up some play-by-play and go to more of a hybrid. The guy who I think has the perfect balance. Now, I'm not going to make any comments if I think he's the best caster, the worst caster. That's not what I'm saying here.
That's what I'm clipping.
The person,
though. Okay.
I know. The caster who has, in my opinion, the best balance out of everyone is Stax. He has the best balance out of everyone when it comes to playing up the hype, but also adding in the interesting tidbits, the stats, the facts, right? Where the kid, to tell the story. Stax, in my opinion, does that the best as far as balance-wise on that spectrum. And to me, he falls just to the right. And I think if anyone should look, if you're trying to get into casting, I would say listen to what Stax is saying. Don't try and copy him. No one can sound like Stax. But listen to the words that he's saying, write them down, and then read them again, so you don't get the how he's saying it. I'm talking about just literally what he's saying, because he does it, I think, perfectly. I've never heard Stax have a bad cast, in my opinion. And it's okay, like to not fall where I think is the perfect example. Like Achieves does not fall to the right on my spectrum at all, right? But Achieves is a fantastic caster, right? Yes. So it's not about if you're good or bad. So that's my philosophy. Is I think most casters should fall in favor entertainment over trying to have your Jimmy Neutron moment, because at the end of the day, realistically, what are we trying to accomplish? What's the job of a caster?
Entertain.
You are the vehicle that amplifies, not adds, you amplify the emotion of a game. If you've ever watched a World Championship game without commentary, it's still pretty entertaining. You know the stakes if you're a fan. But if you are listening to a caster, he amplifies that, right? Think to season 5, right? Obviously, this is Rocket League, right? That sends chills down your spine. And if a caster can do that, that's good. There's no moment in all the best calls, I would say maybe in all of esports, where that chill moment that you get is someone saying a stat or talking about a player, where they're from.
And if you can do that.
And if you can do that, you're amazing. And I'm sure there are examples. But for me, all of our best moments are entertainment, which is why I think casters should favor entertainment over chopping through the analysis. It's not that analysis isn't valuable, and you need it. It's a balance. But I'm saying worst comes to worst, I would favor entertainment over analysis. Yeah, that's my personal opinion.
So first off, I'm going to say I can't say I really disagree. I think honestly that's solid. I think for me, actually before I make that point, the only example I can sort of think of that kind of combines the two is James's NRG call when he says they've done what they couldn't before, because it is kind of referencing a stat of they've never won that before, but it's contextualized in the triumph that they've just achieved, right? Like it's not well, this is the first time out of 8 seasons they've it was done really well. I think that was a good balance between the two.
And by the way, casters do that naturally. Like no one's gonna in a big time call like that, you're gonna pick the shortest way to say the most interesting thing, right? So like what you were about to say, it's like this is the first time in 7 seasons that this roster is like, that's just way too.
Don't
and
say
no one wants to hear that.
But the back to the spectrum there. It's interesting because I love hybrid. I've always been Lawler and I actually did hybrid all throughout VVV because we realized both of us were very capable of going into and also the online nature. It was harder to do handoffs a lot more. So you kind of just whoever was talking, you wanted to continue going during a moment. But then coming into the RLCS, just to be safe, since we're all green, Golden Boy actually recommended. He said, "Hey, let's if you guys want to try it here and there, but let's try to have a default of play-by-play and color for now, just to see what happens." And that just because we were all nervous, we stuck with that for seasons upon seasons. And I'm very happy that over the past couple of seasons, hybrid has started to move its way back in.
And I think that was good advice from Golden Boy too.
Right. You want to have a foundation that you can work off of.
I think that was really good advice. But I think now we're good enough, right? That it's like, okay, we know how to that handshake between, okay, I'm stopped talking. Okay, you're going to go now and say whatever you want.
Yeah.
So
But then there is also the foundation that needs to be rattled a little bit, because you spent so many years saying, okay, this is what Rocket League commentary should be. Here's your color. Here's your play-by-play. So then, any new casters getting into the scene or people working their way up are building on that. Do you think hybrid is going to seep its way through everyone else?
It already is. Yeah, it already is. I've spoken to many of the up-and-coming casters because I like hearing their advice. It's funny, we were talking about criticisms.
Mm-hmm.
It's important too. Another really important thing as a caster is to just always listen to other casters. Whether you think you're better than them or worse than them. Because if you think you're worse than them, then go watch and see what they're doing worse than you. Where is that pitfall, right?
Yeah.
To teach yourself that. So I do that all the time. I listen to people that are, bubble casters or whatever the heck you want to call them, up and coming casters, or just not on the RLCS team is normally how I like.
That's why I just said other casters in the scene, because there's so many talented.
Well, they call themselves bubble casters too, but then I was like, you guys are doing more lands than me. So I don't know what you guys are.
I don't really,
you guys are just
I don't like the term. It feels demeaning almost.
Yeah. I don't want to put anyone down because they're talent just like everyone else at the end of the day. But talent that aren't on RLCS or who haven't grown up in our Rocket League system as a caster for as long as we have, they are slowly getting to that, right? Like I've spoken to them. They say we've seen what you guys are doing, and we were even doing it before you guys started doing it. Of the hybrid, I think there's a balance for the hybrid. I think we've gone too far at some points. I think we've gone too little at others, but I think that's something that we're still learning. It's not perfect, but I think it is the way to go for Rocket League, and I think in general esports, because at least as an American watching American sports, especially football, I would not take any advice from any American sports broadcaster in football. Like just not a single one. They're asleep in those games, like absolutely asleep. And I think there's some weird like expectation from the old days of when casting first started in the NFL. Baseball's too slow of a sport to really pay attention to. It's not comparable. Hockey does a great job.
Hockey's close.
Hockey's pretty close. But even then, hockey, I still don't think captures it perfectly. So sports is really hard because some people say, oh, do you look up to anyone in like regular sports broadcasting? I say no, because I basically only watch like football, some basketball, which basketball is pretty good as well. I like watching golf, which golf is way too slow.
Not close at all.
There is a really cool skill in golf, but it's just not applicable for Rocket League. So sports are really hard. So, I think golf, the biggest skill that golf has as a broadcaster is to know when to let the broadcast breathe. Like they're very good at actually just shutting up and letting the play, and they have really good sound, which is really helpful. So you can hear the wind blowing in the trees.
Birds or something,
you can hear the caddy's voice kind of carry into the mic, and then that crack. And they do a really good job. They let that ball fly for a second, and they don't say anything, and they come in right at the top of the arc and start talking again, and they're like, wow, that was a great hit by Tiger Woods. That one's going to land just 5 feet.
Handling the southeast wind very beautifully.
And it's so soothing, and they nail it. Like the golf broadcasts are really good, but it's so not applicable to Rocket League because it's just too slow.
Can you imagine that we see a beautiful shot come out from across field, and it's going in, you just let it breathe for a minute. And there it is, sunk right in the center.
I mean, imagine like season 5, Shogun's just like, and this is Rocket League. It's just like, what?
we need alternate universe versions.
Oh my god, that's a great idea. We could make Shogun do that. We'll be like cast season 5 in different like
same
ways.
words, but you have to do it
same words, but
Fire burner there.
Turbo
there.
Justin keeps. Oh, sorry. Well, that was too hype. Sorry. Justin keeps it alive. There you go.
Carpet in the background. Justin.
The rookie of the year.
I'm down for that. You do some old 50 style. Justin in the air.
Not that. Horse racing stuff. Actually, horse racing. Yes. Horse racing's interesting. I have gone and looked at a lot of other just sporting events. For inspiration. Horse racing is one that I think is semi-applicable because it is kind of that rap god thing.
It's very fast.
And there is very much a skill in that. So yeah, I mean,
I'm assuming a lot of the analytics come because I haven't watched a lot of horse racing before the race, and as soon as you hit race, it's just strict Rap God play-by-play.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, horse racing is interesting because there's not really like a desk analyst. They just talk about what people are wearing and then how much people are betting on the game or on the sport. Really, is what's happening. Like
okay.
And then they talk about each of the horses, where they come from. They have some pieces on some of the trainers.
That's what I meant analytical. Like that's the
but
the building up of the story.
My girlfriend's she's a veterinarian, so like she likes watching the horse racing. She's not a horse girl, by the way, but that apparently is a stigma.
I love it. You have to put a disclaimer. She's not crazy.
She's not crazy. But she does like watching the horse stuff, so she makes me watch it, and it's interesting. It's a massive fill for like 4 hours and then a 2.5 minute long race. So
yeah, that's insane.
That's basically what it is.
That's that brings me back to season 6.
Oh no, not the gnarly.
What was it?
No.
It was the first time Sam was. That was season 7. Was that world? Right? Yeah. We had a probably about 20 to 30 minute fill. It was about 10 to 15 minutes on the desk. Thankfully, I had Chamaco there, but I actually I got the word in my ear that we're gonna throw to casters as I was asking my very potential last question ever. I'm like, I have nothing else to pull out of this, and they said throw it, and then the casters had to fill for 15 minutes.
Oh, that's the worst.
It was.
I have become very at peace with filling. So long as someone starts us off with the right topic, I could fill for as long as you wanted to now. Like, because I could talk about Rocket League, and if we didn't talk about Rocket League, we could talk about ice cream. Like, we're just very good at that now. So that was my biggest fear initially, was having to fill. So
I think what happened is that initially with filling is, first off, if you look at our game compared to like a MOBA, like a League of Legends, it's not as deep. Like the reality is it's right. You can't theory craft for days on end. Right. So you have to be creative in drawing out explanations so that your next point doesn't get brought up too soon. If you you need to fill, like you have to be very creative with how you're filling and then okay, now what story are we telling? Let's look at this. But I think at the beginning, at least I was very afraid of talking about anything that wasn't Rocket League in those fills. Yeah. Right. So we got so good, I think, at just talking about that thing that it just, now it's 2 minute fill, whatever, we can do that.
2 minutes.
And then we're not afraid to throw a joke in that is tangentially about ice cream or something. Right.
It's funny because like we'll have Johan's our producer guy in our ears for all these RLCS events, and Johan will be like, you guys need to fill for 2 minutes. And in my head every time I'm like, that's not long enough, like we need more to fill, because we're gonna start and we're gonna go down the line on this desk and every person's gonna speak for 1 minute. So you're getting 3 at a minimum. Yeah. So 2 minutes is not long enough. If we're filling it, it's 3 minimum.
It's interesting just how fantastic the fillings got across the team. I think that's really the story seems to be about most of the casters is throw them into the fire, and I think that's what's forged a lot of us. I mean, it happened to you. Right, it happened to any of the original season 1 guys. We all just got thrown. I didn't even realize we were doing it in studio when I got asked to do this. I thought we were going to be casting from home. I had no idea the scope of any of it. Right.
Well, here's something about me. I have casted up until the pandemic stuff. I casted online like once. So I casted once online before getting into casting. And then after Rival Series and CRL, I started doing like the Astro tournaments. So I did like 4 or 5 of those. So I think maybe in total, up until the pandemic stuff, I casted online like 6 times max.
Yeah.
So all of my experience, and this was pretty hard too for me when we went online, all of my casting experience was in studio or on LAN.
That's crazy, yeah.
So I when we went online, my RLCS was a very tough time for me. Like I really struggled. RLCS was probably one of my weaker seasons as a caster because I couldn't get comfortable in my own seat. Like I'm wearing a headset, my own headset. I'm in my own room. Like I'm not a big yeller.
Not in the zone.
So like, like I don't yell in my own house that much. So like I was having to like, hype things up in my own house, which is weird because my girlfriend's like sitting right there. It's just weird. And so it took me probably up until like winter of the last season so a year ago.
Yeah.
Till I really got comfortable. So that I was really hurting when we went online because like none of my experience was online.
Yeah,
I didn't even have any of the equipment. I didn't have this. I didn't have this camera. I didn't have these lights. Like I didn't have anything because I'd never done it. I just used I just cast on like that little HyperX
I saw that in the
microphone back
there,
then. Yeah. So that guy right there. That's why I cast it on. It's a piece of crap for casting. So it was bad. So that was a very rough transition for me.
I don't know if you find it the same, but what helped me get comfortable with it. I mean, again, I had experience again online with VVV and all that before, but that was so with completely different crew. Like it was a different experience, right? So yeah. I think for all of us, it was tough because we had gotten used to going into studio all the time and then bringing it online. There's so many different changes when it comes to body language. I can't just look at someone and then they know I want them to talk next. I have to call out their names. We had to build systems for it. But I think what helped me was knowing that everyone else was suffering too, but everyone else had to go through it. And I think the crew is very good at talking to each other about it and saying, hey, this is tough. And we could just sympathize with each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like I said, I do talk with a lot of other talent in Rocket League outside of the RLCS team. Most of these people are doing online shows, and I always tell them, I was like, all online shows handicap a caster. Just the nature of being online. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you can't see the nonverbal cues from your caster. You can't even give them like you can't hit them on the shoulder. Like I used to hit people on the shoulder, like, hey, I'm going to talk now, or like me, especially if they've been droning on for a long time. If my play-by-play has been going for a long time, I'll stick my hand out and be like, okay, I want to go. I have something to say,
Let me in, yeah.
and let me in. You can't do that online. I know the EU guys tried to do, they used to cast with their cameras on so that they could try and like give each other nonverbal cues, kind of like how we are right now.
Yeah. Some of the casters, use the PGM.
They tried to do that. I don't know if they still do that. I never did that, which is probably a smart thing to try. But
I think Shogun and Johnny do.
It's like Shogun and Johnny try. Well, especially for the tri casting because we were doing tri casting last year. So because they had never done it. So yeah, they were trying to get that to work. But it's just hard. It's just hard to do it online because then you got to look at another screen. It's just like you're all over the place. So, but I was gonna say though, when you're especially when you're up and coming caster and only doing like online shows, I think. From my experience now, doing the opposite, you are so handicapped online. I think a lot of people are probably a lot better of a caster if they could just get into a studio or some sort of non-online thing, because they'll probably succeed a lot. They have a higher ceiling than maybe they do or they definitely have a higher ceiling in studio than they do online, in my opinion. So,
I've something I want to get to is completely different topic, but before that, I want to let you know because I told Spaceman this too. But I guess a compliment. You were one of the few casters that actually intimidated me.
Me?
Yeah, believe it or not. So, and this isn't like intimidated as in like scared me, or intimidated in more of like as a respectful thing that I had to. I'm like I need to step it up, or like I always felt like I was overshadowed because. For Spaceman, for me it's just because it's traits I admire. For him, it was it's just his wittiness, just his creativity when he comes to just how does he come up with some of this stuff. I love it. You never know what you're gonna get, right?
Clever, yeah.
For you, it was funniness. I don't know. There was something about your comedy or your jokes that like I'm like these are so like you commit to them. You don't do the NA thing of like, no, I'm just kidding, right? It's so it was, I don't know, you committed to them, and it was something that I'm always like, shoot, I have to be as funny as this guy, and when I'm not, I think I'm terrible. So that intimidated me, that I felt
that's
worse.
Funny.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it makes sense too because we worked in very close proximity at the old studio and stuff like that. But it's funny because I think a lot of people think I'm actually really serious and like. Because my casting comes off that way.
Okay.
Because I cast like a typical American with like kind of the monotone thing.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people think I'm really serious. And being like a color guy,
you inherently you're
like
put in that box.
You kind of get that. And don't get me wrong, when I'm casting, I definitely am that guy. But outside of casting, no, I'm not. Like not at all. Like, did you see my Fortnite montage the other day? Like, I mean, I'm screaming at people when I'm playing, like making noises. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I'm goofing off, and it's funny. I get that a lot. Like, I'll meet people in LAN, they'll be like, "Wow, you're like fans." They'll be like, "Wow, I thought you were like really serious and like, you know, kind of like recluse." And I was like, "No, like I'm a normal guy." Like, it just when I'm casting, it must be. I mean, obviously, the way I come off in casting and. So I've actually been, it's funny you bring that up because I'm trying to get more of my real personality out on my casts, on the desk, trying to laugh a little bit more.
I think it's a journey any caster takes of trying to, now that I'm comfortable with my skill, how do I move more of me into it? And I've tried that too. Yeah.
And I'm on that journey right now is how do I get more of like actually me into my broadcast rather than like, this is the good quality, I think, high quality Corelli cast that you're going to get every time. And that's great. But like, there's so much more to me than just like my knowledge and what I can do as a caster because like I can do some things that are interesting and different and guys like I mean I agree with you like I envy guys like Spaceman like he just lets his personality fly. Turtle is another one that's really helped me as well because Turtle's just like you know a goofball so it's hard to do especially since I've trained myself not to do it. It's hard to get in there.
Well, I think there was also initial thing when we were early on is like and this is a fear that anybody I guess in any job really think so, but especially in contracting is you're like, okay, am I going to keep doing this? You never want to do something to give someone a reason to get rid of you, right? So I think it gets harder to not just sit in this one, you know, PG characterization of yourself of like, or caricature of like, okay, here's Christian Leaf, you know, just it's very clean, just put it on there, right? And rather than risking a joke or something. I will say though, I felt a lot more freedom to do that stuff. I feel like we've been trusted a lot more in the past couple seasons from the higher ups to kind of just do what we think is necessary to make. And I think maybe
they trust us.
Yeah. So I think that's helped me try to feel a little more. Okay, let me make a joke here. Let me make fun of someone. I remember how scared I was the first time on broadcast. I made my first ever joke about someone else where I was just like, I just made a mean joke about them was Chrome. I made a joke about Chrome.
Oh no.
And I was like, whoa, we didn't know you had that in you. And I'm like, okay, that was scary, but I didn't get in trouble for it. Maybe we can try that again sometime.
I remember it's actually funny. The opposite happened to Achieves on CRL. He would compliment what people were wearing like a lot because he's a fashion guy. He likes fashion. And so whether it was a caster or whether it was like a player who maybe dressed up for something, he would always compliment it. But then we would like talk about it for way too long. And so Psyonix eventually told Achieves, they're like, dude, stop saying how good everyone looks. It's like you just do it every time someone gets on the camera. Like he was giving away too many compliments.
you're too
which is the most
nice.
Achieves thing to get in trouble for.
That's brilliant. So what if your what things like have you are there methods or like moments you look for to be able to bring your personality in more? Like how do you squeak that in more? Is it just an overall presence or is it specific moments?
Mostly the desk, which is why, as you know, I've been harping to like change up how the desk is because it just is so fast and it's tough to like have a real conversation. It just feels very fake in my opinion, which it's all fake because we're all having fake conversations. But
we actually all hate Rocket League. We don't care about it.
Yeah. But so yeah, it's like just having more time, not more time, but having the desk talk be more directed towards like what people actually think and making us like characters instead of like the mouths. Right?
Yeah, okay.
So like the casters could be characters and they have like T-Bates, for example.
I was going to say Bates is a perfect example, yeah.
He's a character, right? Yep. Like if you see Bates on the desk,
you know what you're getting.
You know he's going to say some blasphemy, right? And you're listening for that. And I'm not saying we should all go the T-Bates route, but you can all find your niche somewhere. I don't know what that may be, but everyone can find their niche. So that, and then like during casting, it's hard. Like during casting is very tough because it's like, you don't want to try and be funny, especially as a color guy. I've slipped in a few jokes here and there and I've done it more and more. And like, it's weird too, because then it's like, it's awkward to have like a big laugh in the middle of a broadcast, like during a in-game cast, because like you could miss a moment because that's how fast the game is. So it feels weird to like, if I could think of something if I think of something that is like I know will hit, like I know it's gonna be really funny, and I make my co-commentator laugh, they're gonna laugh for a little bit, right? And then it's like, uh-oh, we might miss something. And then how do you go from cracking up to a joke to holy crap, that guy just hit a double flip reset, double tap? You know,
it is tough. I think Cole and Stumpy do a decent job of it though. They're good at kind of going on tangents.
Yeah, they do. They go on some big tangents,
but they know when not to do it too, and that's the important thing.
Yeah, no, they're pretty good at it. Yeah, they have very good chemistry in that sense. I think a lot of especially the North American guys, have good chemistry as far as like how to cast, but definitely trying to find that personality chemistry is a work in progress for a lot of us.
It's tough to
just implement ourselves.
Speaking of like, you know what was one of my favorite moments, I think, just in Rocket League history was, I think it was you talking about Envy, was it? But you, I don't know. I forget what team it was, but basically I think it was you and Bates went against each other and you dismantled him.
Yeah. The
with
debate
you had
between
like
NRG and
8
Envy.
pages of research and
oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. So okay. Here's what happened. Yeah, Bates. I don't know when this happened.
It was NRG and Envy, right? It was because it was the machine. Yeah.
But I can't remember why we did it. I don't know if we did this on broadcast or this was off the broadcast. Then we brought it to First Touch.
It was. Yeah. It was. It started.
Like the debate happened on First Touch.
I think it started in the green room. Didn't it? And then you brought it to First Touch,
Yeah. So Bates's thing was, this is back when the machine was around, and he was trying to say that machine is the best team like of all time or something, better than NRG.
Yeah.
And at the time, the machine Envy, they were definitely looking and playing better than NRG for like a very small window. And so my whole thing was like, if you look at the bigger picture, NRG's always been better than them. And so I went and I went to Direct, and it was probably one of my first real interactions with Direct too. Direct's the statistician, and I was just like, listen, buddy, give me everything you got on NRG, and then I want you to cross-reference all of these stats with NRG stats, and then put them next to each other. And then highlight every single one that NRG's better than. And it was just all NRG, like it was better. And so I was like, thank you. And so I wrote it all down on my piece of paper. And I came in, and Bates, before the show even started, Bates is like, hey, you ready for this, Jack? And I was like, Bates, I got four pages of stats that I'm ready. He's like, wait, you brought stats? I was like, what are you bringing? He's like, well, if I should have known if you were bringing stats. And then like the show goes live, and I think he knew from the start that he was going to get toasted, because I would have never walked into that if I knew the stats didn't back me up.
Right.
So I just went. I tried to predict every argument that Bates would have had, and I think I did a pretty good job. I think there's only one thing that I didn't have a stat on, but everything that he was trying to bring to me, I had a stat that said the opposite of what he felt.
Yeah.
And that was really fun. I was thinking about talking to him again. We should do that more often.
Yeah.
And more debates with T-Bates, because it is fun.
That was a great moment. Like that was, I don't know. It's in my opinion, that's a Rocket League history moment.
Oh, really?
That's written in stone.
That's funny.
It was too good. But it was, I don't know. I feel like that was a moment where you get to talk about something real. Someone cares about something. You care about something. And you talk about it. And I think that's the moments, if I'm not mistaken, you're talking about wanting to have on the desk.
Yep. Yeah, because I got to pop off. I got to be goofy, but like also presenting something that's interesting, and I was right. So that helped. I don't like the idea of, because we've talked about this before, it definitely helps when two people are definitely passionate about the sides that they're presenting. I don't like the idea of trying to present something that I actually don't care about, and then like trying to take a side because someone else feels passionate about something else.
Right. But that goes opposite of what you were just saying. I want to talk about something I care about. Right.
Yeah. So those moments are great. That's a fun one. I really, really, really enjoyed being the host of CRL. Like that is probably like the highlight for me personally when I had the most fun. Because I got to be a goofball the whole time. And if you want to know what I'm talking, because people are probably like, wow, no, Corelli's pretty serious when he casts. Like, I don't know when has he been a goofball? Go watch CRL when we were in the studio and I was the host. We were in that living room studio and I was the host, and you'll see what I was talking about. I was making a joke literally every second I was on camera, and like I was teasing Achieves, I was teasing Jorby, and they were playing off of me, and they were banging on me as well, and like Achieves was muting my mic. Like we were having a good time. Obviously, it's a little less professional, so like, there's some help there because like RLCS is like, okay, we're ESPN basically, but that's where I think I truly thrived at like showing my personality the most was on that CRL studio broadcast. So
yes, yeah, I actually think back to the what I said before, just like the intimidation. I think that's where that started because I'm like, oh, look, how does he manage to like have so much fun and be funny all the time? Like, why can't I figure out how to do that on broadcast when and I think part of it probably thinking back now was the restrictions of the shows, right? Like right, it's just if I did that on the RLCS, there might have been some repercussions for that, right? So that's probably a lot of what it was. But I think that's where it started. So I definitely looked at it. I'm like, okay, how can I at least take some of that and like how can I implement that vibe a bit more at least into the show, even if it's just during pre-shows or something.
I have felt that way about many of our talent. Achieves, I mentioned Achieves when I first joined CRL. I was like, oh shit, he's way better than me, like in every way possible. Like Jorby, I felt like that, like especially with like his hype moments, like the big bravado Jorby calls. I was like, I can't do that. Like I physically cannot do that. James, I felt that way because James always knows what to say. He's just so good.
I don't know how he does it.
Wavepunk with it, Wavepunk, especially when he's on the like the major hosting thing. I'm like, God damn, he's so good. Like, I cannot believe, like I could never be that good, So yeah, there's a lot of that where it's just like I think about that all the time, and I think I think it's maybe a little unhealthy, but also healthy at the same time because you kind of push yourself, right? You say, okay, what's this guy doing right, and how can I do my version of that?
Yeah,
like I can't be as witty as Spaceman, but I could get close, I think, if I really tried, if I really wanted to replicate that. How do I could never replicate like Turtle's charm. Like Turtle is so like charming, like he's just like a lovable guy. I don't have that, right? Like people look at me and they don't.
What are you talking about?
No, not like Turtle at least. Not like, I don't have a baby face. So that helps him a lot too. But yeah, I feel the same way that you feel about other talent too. It's just like, oh gosh. How can I be as good as them?
Yeah, it's I've talked about this before too, but it's like a healthy competitive thing. It's like I want to be the best, but I also respect everyone else around me so much.
Yeah.
But then it also drives, and I think that's what really did not help my depression a lot was because you almost start looking at, okay, what makes these guys so good at these things? And what am I good at? And you almost start breaking your own personality down into traits.
Yeah.
And then you start wondering, am I actually good at these? Am I just a list of these? Can I deliver on what do people expect from me? And it's been so hard to like it's an existential thing. Casting is almost, right?
Yeah. Well, and you do a lot, like everyone does everything. They do something well innately, and it's hard, I think, for you to see what you do that's clockwork
because you think everyone else should be able to do that too because that's your perspective. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's hard. That's a very hard thing to do. But having that introspection is good, and I think it's what keeps you at the top and what keeps you a good caster, and that's why you're still here. That's why I'm still here. And so I think everyone on the team does that to some degree. I know some more than others, but there's a lot of people. Everyone's looking at each other respectfully, and saying, "What do they do?" and seeing what you can and can't do, and how to implement maybe the good stuff from others. So, and that's a good thing. That makes the team better.
Yeah. So what? I mean, what have you like been able to note like a massive change? Like, what are the biggest grosser changes you've gone through? Have you had an identity crisis?
No, not an identity crisis, but I have had multiple growth spurts like in my casting. So the first time
you are a bit taller now.
No, I'm getting shorter.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah. I used to be just under like 6 feet, and now I'm like 5'11", like flat.
That's not supposed to happen until you're like 60.
Yeah. I think it's because
Everybody, posture check.
I've been trying to posture check myself. I have pretty good posture. I don't really slump. But in my chair, I slump. But standing up and walking around, I don't. Anyways, What the hell was I saying? ADHD.
Identity crisis is drastic changes.
Oh yeah. So my first big one was obviously the Universal Open that I already talked about, just being thrown into the fire, big boy, having board meetings in the 50th floor of the SNY studios with the Hudson River in the background, like that kind of stuff. You're just like, okay, got to be a big boy now. And like you just kind of like kick it into gear and you just kind of innately do better, especially when, my ceiling was so low at the time. Like I was just a sponge, everything. Like I was watching Wave Punk cast in Philadelphia, and I was just like, how is he doing this? Because at that time, Wave Punk was kind of going through his golden era with like him and Findable Carpet. So that was a big point. But I would say the even bigger point was after RLCS, which is very recent.
Oh yeah.
The beginning of the 21-22 season. That was where I really kicked it into gear, and I felt like I was casting the best I had ever casted. And the reason why had actually nothing to do with me practicing, because I practiced a lot in that off season just by myself. Had nothing to do with that, in my opinion. It was advice that Gillyweed, who was on the Rival Series show way back in the day, she was the host, and she eventually went to Psyonix as our talent liaison coordinator, whatever she was. And so she used to have one-on-ones with us to like tell us how good we were, or no, sorry, how bad we were, and like give us advice. And she gave me some pretty good advice, helped me with that. But the thing that helped me the most was I still do, but way better nowadays. I have a very weak voice. Like my voice is probably the weakest on the team.
Don't worry, I'm gonna bass boost it to hell before.
It is a very, very weak voice. I used to be able to cast a best of 7, and then my voice was sore. For like 2
it just like physically we couldn't do
it. And so for years, Gilly gave me an exercise thing to help strengthen my voice, and I did it for years, and I still do it. And it wasn't until 21-22 season that I realized, oh shit, I've done this long enough that it's actually working now, and my voice is so much stronger. And that's why you're seeing it opened up my ability to do hybrid now while I do color, because I can actually take the play-by-play and make a big-time call now without my voice dying. And I could cast for longer, wasn't as tired, so my cast down the line in the day, if my third cast of the day was just as strong as my first cast of the day, I wasn't dying with my voice. So that it was a confidence thing. I knew I could do it now because my voice allowed me to. And I still, after lands, my voice is still sore, but like it happens after land now. So that was a big thing for me. So at the beginning of 21-22, I realized, oh man, my voice is like way stronger now. And you can hear it. Go listen to the beginning of RLCS and then go listen to the end of 21-22. My voice is deeper. It's way stronger, comes through the mic way louder. And I just sound like I know what I'm doing now. You know what I mean? Like I sound like I should be sounding. So
I know you already know it does, but I want to just reinforce that I actually mentioned to someone, I can't remember if it was Worlds. I'm pretty sure it was a LAN. It could have also been an online, but I mentioned, I think I was doing a watch party for something. So it must have been a LAN last season. Worlds probably then. I think I said to chat, I'm like, wait, is that Corelli? Because you sounded different in a way, but like more powerful, stronger. Like the voice had the grit to it than it that I didn't expect. So yeah, no, it's there and absolutely noticeable. I actually physically said it out loud to someone.
Yeah. No, it is shockingly noticeable. Like even I'm like, oh my God, I sound like a little boy in RLCSX. and obviously I think also too, there was the beginning of RLCSX, I was still using that microphone, so I sounded pretty bad.
Fair.
This microphone kind of helps. But still, it's very noticeable, and it's just like a confidence thing, because now I know I can say the big hype thing, and I'm not gonna like
you feel good about it.
So yeah, that's the biggest jump I've made, and my casting has been better for it by a long shot, because just simply because of my voice.
I need to ask. Anytime I get talent on here, I'm like, all right. What was the turning point for you when it comes to growth, and why was it Gilly? Because I feel like she did something for all of us. For me too, a big thing for me was a lack of confidence in being able to say. For the big thing was like, at the beginning, introing the show in studio, I had to walk down the stairs. Introing, I had like a minute or so where I had to look at brackets and stuff before, and the matches coming up beforehand. no teleprompter, nothing. It's all off the top of your head. Then walk over to the desk, sit down, introduce everyone, and then go from there. Those were some of the scariest moments for me because I couldn't stare into the camera a lot and just say everything. I kept glancing back at the board to remind myself what was going on. And her advice to me was just know the material. You don't have to have a script ahead of time. Just know it. The day before, look at the brackets, look at a favorite match that you want to talk about, be excited about something, and you'll talk about it. And you just have to trust yourself that you'll talk. Right.
Yeah.
You know how to talk.
Yeah.
And so I did that. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to pick a match. And I started saying, okay, this is a match I'm really looking forward to. I think it was back when Esports was playing. And I'm like, all right, I've been following them. I've been hyping them. That's my thing on the desk. I'm the one guy always supporting Esports. Let's do that. I'll come in. I say hello, welcome. We got this today. Here's your matches. What are you guys excited for? I'm really looking forward to this. And I would just talk about that match quick. And all of a sudden that minute's gone by real fast and I can move to the desk. So advice of just know it, recite it once or twice the day before, and you'll be able to do it no problem the next day.
Yeah, yes. So Gilly is the queen. Like, she's the GOAT. Like, she made all of us better. Every single person.
Absolutely.
If you ask who helped the most, I think everyone can point to a singular person, and that's Gilly. 100%. She's amazing. And for me, I'm not sure if it was just one thing, but it was a lot of reinforcement for me. I got a lot of positive feedback. It was my voice. Like, that was her big thing, was my voice was, you could tell, like, it was a little wobbly sometimes, like it wouldn't stay at the right tone. Big moments when I'm playing something, I'm like, okay, here comes Justin. He's going to go. And then my voice would start to like fall off, like, and it's just like, it doesn't sound good. But like the things I was saying, she liked, and she never had feedback for that. But one thing that she did say was, as far as doing play-by-play, because I did both in a rival series, was just to like stop trying to make everything a big deal. And that was feedback that even fans gave us. But Gilly would do a thing where she would just clip the thing that she thinks was bad, and then send you the clip and be like, this is what I'm talking about. And that helps so much more. And that's what I was talking about earlier when it comes to substance, because it's one thing if you say, hey, I didn't like how much Corelli like tried to play up everything. It just doesn't, I don't know exactly what you mean by that. But if Gilly says, hey, I don't like how you tried to play this one up, you went too long, here's the clip, and there's me talking for 20 seconds on a play that died 15 seconds ago. Shut up. And that's kind of what she told me. It's just like, you need to come up and then you need to come down, but you can't go up and then fall off a cliff. You have to come up and then come back down. And if it happens again, you have to come back up that cliff, with a slope. You can't just be like bing, 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 bing.
Yeah.
Bing. So that was something that was really helpful. And that's something that was helpful for Jorby, especially because he was big play-by-play, and he was a big, Jorby's a big ball of fire. And if you can hone that, and he's really honed now, and Gilly's a big part of that as well. And I did it too, where I was just like, oh my God, that was amazing, but then he didn't score. And oh my God, here he comes again, but he lost the ball. And it's just like, oh my God, we're going up and down. Yeah. And even when I did ramp it, it would stay at the top. I did plateau for too long and then bang, fall off. And so anyways, that was probably the biggest advice that she ever gave me, but it was mostly just like, here's some voice exercises and you need to warm up your voice before you started casting. Like, you have to spend like in the shower or whatever. So now I shower every day before I cast, and I'll just sit in the shower just going like, like stuff like that, just to like warm up the voice.
Before this, he didn't shower every day.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. My own stink was holding me back, and it was truly the shower that actually made me better.
That was the big difference. It's interesting about the ramming, because since the beginning, I always thought that ramping and that energy level always extended to the person beside you. And then when we did, so my initial thoughts were always, okay, if my co-caster ramps up and leaves it here, I need to meet them at that level or just barely below it. I can't just, they can't be like, oh my God, what a shot. And then I'll be like, Yeah, that was the greatest goal we've ever seen. You know, I can't start down there. I have to, if I need it back down, I have to start there and bring it back down. And then I realized when we started doing improv classes that I also had to make sure I wasn't delivering an energy level to a co-caster that wasn't comfortable or couldn't go there. I had to make sure I left it where they were able to take it back to their level from and working with each other and making sure giving them the best.
And that is some of the best advice I think you could ever give someone who's like up and coming as talent. Because I think for me, that's probably like the biggest mistake that other talent like new talent make, especially, is that in any esport, I'm not just talking about Rocket League, is that they don't match their casters levels.
They're in their own
when
zone.
They don't, and so when especially in Rocket League, because that's what we know the most, if a big play happens and you're like, oh my God, that was incredible, I'll hear so much where like the color guy will come and be like, yeah, he really took that one off the wall and did the best with it. It's just like, what? your play-by-play just set you up for like a big time moment there where he's just like, and he puts it away, and you could have been like, oh my God, like look at how he controls the ball, and you could have that hype
again
with the
and
color.
again off the wall he goes. Yeah.
But instead, you'll hear people come in and be like, yeah, that was really good. It's like you're annoyed with it. So that's advice. I've had a few people come to me for advice, and that is my number one thing that I always tell people is like, match your co-caster. Even if you feel like they came in too hot, like too much for something,
bring it back down.
You have to match it.
Start there.
You can bring it down, but you have to lower it down. You can't just come in below them.
Yeah.
So.
And again, I think the same way goes the other way of setting them up for success. If you know continually their voice can't handle that, either A, don't go that high to begin with, or go that high. By the end of it, try to bring it down a bit so that they can best. But it's also handing off. I think that's important.
Yeah, which reminds me of some clips. Gilly used to send me clips when because Jorby and I were on Rival Series together, and I still to this day can't. I can get closer, but I can't match Jorby's energy. Like I just can't. Like my voice still doesn't allow me to come in at the same level that he is, and it doesn't have to be perfectly the same level.
No. It could be.
But in Rival Series especially, because Jorby was just like, and I was very like, I'm an analysis guy. I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna do my thing. Like, so there's so many clips that Gilly used to send to me where Jorby's like got this amazing big time hype call, and I am doing my damnedest to stay with him. I am on the edge of my seat, like, oh my God, just like screaming as hard as I can to stay with Jorby. And she was just like, this is really good, but like you can't do that. Like you physically can't. I can tell you can't do that. Just do what you can. Don't kill yourself out there. So like Jorby early on was a very tough guy to cast with for me personally, just because I loved casting with him and I thought we were a really good duo. But sometimes when he got to the top, I was like hanging on for dear life up there, just like, yeah, Jorby, that was amazing. So
I wonder, can you leave like a small pause after to give yourself that bit of room to like, well, how do you handle? You just try.
I was just always ready for it. I mean, you could tell because Jorby's got a big lead up too. Like Jorby doesn't go
when it's
0 to 100. Like he ramps up, but he ramps up actually surprisingly slow. Like you'd be surprised. That sounds weird to say, but he'll ramp up and then when he's in 6th gear, he does not switch down. Like that guy is going. And so when I could feel him getting to that point, and obviously we're sitting next to each other, and like Jorby is like this on the desk, like his hair's a mess and like his shirt's like buttons are ripping off, and
a moment ago
his mic cord is like flying everywhere. Like I could tell like he's about to just like explode internally. And so I'm there like, okay, I can see him. All right, here he comes, and I'm like, just screaming.
That's good. That's really fun. It's fun. Watch if you're ever at a LAN and you can watch Jorby cast. Just watch him.
It's amazing.
I
love that guy. He's so good. He's so good, and he's learned so much. He's probably the most like. This is gonna sound bad, but like I think the most improved. Not because he was such a low like floor, but he had to work so hard to contain his excitement and refine it. Yeah, he's the most refined caster, I would say, because he was always pretty good. It was just like he refined himself.
Honing
God, he is so good now.
It's like the difference between a spirit bomb and a Hadouken or so, Kamehameha. It's just there's a focused energy beam as opposed to a massive bomb.
Yeah, bro was blowing up planets before Collier. Like, bro was taking out a solar system left and right.
That's wonderful. Okay, I got one last thing, and then I'm gonna let you bounce here because I really appreciate all the time you're giving me. But so you're notorious. You don't like anything on Twitter. You just never hit the like button, ever.
Yeah.
What if you were to like a tweet? What would it have to be? Like what would be?
I've thought about this.
Oh yeah,
good. Yeah, I've thought about this. I don't know exactly yet, but I'm thinking, especially if North America doesn't win this World Championship this year, maybe a North American World Championship win. Like the next time they do it is probably something like maybe I'll tweet it out there.
Okay, that would be
if North America wins, I'll start liking tweets. The thing is, like, I'll do that and then I'll like a few tweets and then I'll forget because I've been on Twitter now, at least on this account, my Corelli account, since 2015. I downloaded initially Twitter on my first account, like when I was in high school and stuff, in 2009, and I liked things on there. But most of my friends' accounts were private anyway, so it didn't really matter. And so was my account. So I think what would happen is even if I started liking things, I would just forget to do it because I'm just so out of practice, it just wouldn't be like a thing I do. Like I sometimes will accidentally hit it, and like I didn't even realize that my phone vibrates when you hit like. I didn't even know that was like a thing.
But
oh, really? Mine does.
I usually have mine on silent, but maybe that's why.
Okay. Yeah. So. I don't know. It started off as I didn't realize I was doing it, and I went like a year without liking something. I actually originally did have a few tweets that I liked on there. It was probably like 6 or 7. And so someone noticed that like I hadn't liked something in a year. And so I thought it'd be funny if I just like unliked everything. It was only like 6 tweets.
Yeah.
It was like literally 6 tweets. So I unliked everything. And so ever since then, and that was like in 2016 maybe, I just haven't liked another tweet since. And it's like totally out of my mind. Like I don't even think about it. Like I don't.
You know what? I think that's part of where the intimidation came from. Because I'll say something, you'll make a joke, and then I'll make a joke, and then you don't like it. I'm like, does he fucking hate me? Oh my God. I think that's where it comes from.
I always tell people the rule of thumb with me is I won't like your tweets, but if I'm replying like consistently to you
like it.
Or if I'm like quote tweeting you or mentioning your tweets to you in real life, then I liked your tweet. That's my version of like, because if I really like something, then I'll probably just reply. With a joke, with some bullshit. That's normally what I do, which is why like all of Turtle's tweets, all of Spaceman's tweets are so dumb. But like I just like replying to them, or Jorby's tweets especially. Oh my God, I love replying to Jorby's tweets, and like that just means I like them.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm just like, okay, wait, this next tweet I reply has to be the one he likes. You know?
Yeah. No, but like this time, like I do it now because I'm sticking to the bit at this point.
No, yeah,
like,
of course.
I would have started liking things if no one said anything, but I'm sticking to the bit now.
I was waiting for the day that the only thing you liked was just going to be the dankest meme of all time. It's just one.
I could still do this. I could still do this.
It's just one featured thing in your like thing.
I like no, you know, it would be me. It was just like liking one of my own tweets, just like some stupid tweet, and that's the only tweet I have. Is one. My own tweet.
Yeah. No, either way, I thought that was just it was a fun phenomenon, a fun bit that went on. But we'll look for it one day. Maybe one day. Maybe never. Who knows?
Day. If you see one in there, I did it by accident. That's normally what happens. And people tell me, they're like, oh, you liked the tweet. I'm like, no, I accidentally put my phone in my pocket. My thigh liked it or something. So
that's great. Anyways, I'm not going to keep you for any longer here. I want to say thank you so much for sharing all your stories. This was super intriguing. So yeah, thanks so much, dude.
Anytime. Yeah, I love coming on. I love talking, and I love talking about Rocket League. So easy.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, everybody that has been watching and joining along all these episodes, thank you again so much. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to leave a comment on who you'd like to see next or your thoughts on this. I actually love reading everyone's comments and feedback in the comments below too. Of course, I got to tell you, hit the subscribe button and the like button. And if you're watching on Spotify, hit that follow button. And thank you for supporting the content, regardless of where you are supporting it. That's it for now, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye-bye.